Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. We're a podcast for men. As always, I am Mike Chisholm. As always, I am excited to be here and have conversations on this podcast for men. And today's a doozy. Pierre Piche is on here. Now, Pierre Piche is a guy who lives in the same city I live in, Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. And I've had this last year and a half or so, people keep pinging me saying, hey, you got to connect with Pierre. Hey, you got to connect with Pierre. Hey, you got to connect with Pierre. And he's a guy that's been around for a long time, and our networks have never crossed. You've probably seen each other at events and things like that. But he started a project called Guy Talks. And of course, you know, it's kind of on the nose as to what we're doing, except for the fact that it's exactly the opposite. Whereas we're trying to come up with the idea of a tool for all guys to have in their pocket with them wherever they go. Pierre went the other way and said, let's do the in-person thing. And we've always said it. He changed it. We would love to have some sort of in-person component that we could kind of plant seeds across everywhere, and where the digital tool could actually lead to personal interaction. Well, Pierre went the other way and he started Guy Talks, and he has these events, most of them free, where guys can come out to a venue and he has curated discussions, presentations for guys, and he's been doing them, and they've been growing and growing and growing and growing. Here we talk about the origin of our relationship, our dynamic, the origin of Guy Talks, what his all the way up to his very first event. He goes into his history as to what led him to develop Guy Talks, but really it comes down to the same thing. There's a lot of guys who are lost out there. There are a lot of guys who need, in Pierre's words, a brotherhood, a crew, a place where guys can get together. And I love to use the idea of the mastermind, the idea, Napoleon Hill talks about it in Think and Grow Rich, the idea of a group of people coming together with no outcome except to just kind of be who they are and talk about what it is they're going through. And there's almost, I don't want to get freaky deaky on anybody, but there's almost the collaboration there. There's a spiritual part of it. It's almost like a mystical connection that can happen in a mastermind situation. And he's tapping into that with Guy Talks, and the idea of men being able to help other men just by sharing experience, and not giving advice and not commanding, not trying to sell something, and not trying to network and grow each other's businesses. It's not like that. It's pure, and it's really, really beautiful, this idea. And so we're collaborating on a couple of events. I'm going to go and be I don't know what it is I'm going to be doing, but I'm going to be doing something on an upcoming Guy Talk event on the 26th of July. And then August 27th, there's another big event happening here in Kelowna at Sandhill Winery, which is an amazing spot. It's where Wayne Gretzky wine is made and sold here in BC. Anyway, parts of Wayne Gretzky wine, Wayne Gretzky's alcoholic empire is part of Sandhill. Very excited to be part of that night. I'm honored, but really cool to be linking arms with Pierre, and you're going to see our synergy right away. But yeah, I just think it's a really great episode. So I hope you enjoy this episode of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It, with our very special guest, Pierre Piche. Okay, Pierre. Oh, this is one of those things where it's funny, for so long locally, people have been telling me, hey, have you gone to Guy Talks yet? Have you seen Guy Talks yet? And I mean, I know that we've got some mutual acquaintances and whatnot who have said, hey, yeah, you guys should get together and see if there's a collaboration there. And we did not that long ago. And boy,
Sure.
What you talk about people when they have aligned visions, and how that can really create more just excitement and creativity and all sorts of things moving in that right direction. I'm so grateful that you're finally here. I'm so grateful that we can talk about Guy Talks. And Pierre, welcome to heCast.
Hey, good to be here, Mike, man. It's awesome. I'm super excited. You're an outstanding, scholarly gentleman, looking dapper as usual. That's the first thing I noticed, man. This is a cool dude, man. I'm like, I just like having Guy Talks, and Mike, that's what we're doing. Like, it's kind of like TED Talks, Guy Talks. Like, I just, having the conversation, bringing it to guys, allowing them to sort of peer in and take a glance of just a couple of guys having a conversation, right? Guy
Yeah,
talk.
and it's going to be neat adding sort of a podcast element to it, as opposed to the group getting together and the synergy that's in the
Yes.
room. And both I think are equally important.
Oh yeah.
They hit different sides of our emotions and our intellect and all that. We're going to get to where guy talks came from, but yeah, like, um, iron sharpens iron. I'm a true believer that iron sharpens iron, and that process many times, you think about the idea of, iron sharpening iron, two pieces of metal coming together, and both coming away changed and better. I feel like guy talks, from everything that I've seen and heard and where you guys are going, it really feels like you guys are taking that concept and putting it on steroids. But when iron sharpens iron, that's a huge process. It's loud, it's violent, it gets hot, so hot in fact the metal sometimes turns red. It's a big deal. But by the end of it, both those pieces of metal come out a better thing. Is the iron sharpens iron concept something that you've ever thought of when it comes to guy talks as this thing has evolving?
I'll use something along the same lines as an analogy that I've processed myself personally, and also it comes through even in the logo and all that kind of thing. Mike, it's when you want to purify silver, what the silversmith does is he takes a crucible, he has the liquid silver in it, and he puts it over, like, you can see the Guy Talk logo, the flame, like this scorching hot flame.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks into the liquid silver, and he knows when to pull it off, when the silver is pure of all the impurities, when he can see his reflection in the
Yeah.
silver. So sometimes what that kind of connects to is, as guys are coming together, because what we're doing is we're calling guys to rise into a brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Rise into a brotherhood. And when you're in the brotherhood, think about that being like you're putting yourself into the fire. Like you're the silver, right? And you want to get your impurities out. You want to grow. You become better version of yourself for your family, for your work, for your community, for your friends. And that's what the brotherhood does. It just allows that to happen over time. And then eventually you become a better man. You're stepping forward. And again, those impurities are coming out. We're never going to be perfect, but eventually you see your own reflection of who you need to be in the future over time. And we're trying to create the space for guys to connect, grow, and thrive in that fashion. So that's the analogy I've sort of used around associating a little bit to, like, what does the brotherhood kind of do?
Yeah, you and it's safe to say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's safe to say you and I are both, in our own personal way, the result of personal development in many ways. You and I
Oh,
have come
sure.
from one place and come to another in our evolution of who we are as a self. Personal development has been a great aid in that. It's safe to say that, right? With both of us?
100%.
Okay. So one of the things that it talks about a lot in personal development, but I think it goes way beyond that. Like guys who are listening to this right now, who are maybe stuck, there's a truth that I'm going to throw out there that I think everybody has kind of heard. If you're in the personal development world, you certainly explore what I'm about to talk about here. And I think it pertains to the brotherhood, a concept that you were just talking about. The idea that you are many times greatly influenced in all sorts of ways, both conscious and subconscious, by the people that you hang out with. And when you're in a group of people, um, who maybe might not be in the place that you would love to be in your mind's eye, the future version of yourself, the best version of yourself, if you're hanging around with a bunch of people that aren't the ideal of who you want to be yourself, it's very difficult to move in that direction. And the idea of a brotherhood where people get together, and it's not necessarily that these guys are even in the place that you want to be, but they're all in a place where they want to improve their situation. And that commonality alone, when you get a bunch of people together where that's the commonality, everybody comes from their unique perspective, their unique style, their unique vocation, their unique life experience. right? They're all like, might be completely different, but if they have that one commonality of they've taken that step out to say, hey, you know what? I want to be better than who I am right now. I want to step into a bigger life, better goals, closer to, living the life that I want to live, whatever that looks like for you. That commonality alone, and you get everybody together, boy, that can sure lead to some momentum, can't it? And I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to myself, you're talking about that future version of yourself, and you think about the gym. Why do we get attracted to go to the gym, right? Is
Yep.
because we're out of shape, maybe, or whatever the case is. But what guys are striving towards is some future version. I mean, that's what the gym offers, right? If you go there and you work out, you eat better, you're gonna look good, feel good, you're gonna perform better, your mind's gonna be clear, and you kind of like you want that, right?
Yep.
But you just maybe don't know quite how to get there. And you kind of go into that gym, you see the equipment, you maybe get a trainer, you're setting yourself up into an environment where you're more likely to get more successful. To your point, if you're in a room with a bunch of guys working out in a gym, you're going to feel like working out because that's what everyone's doing, right? So you're in an environment that's encouraging that behavior, showing that behavior, and then then you come in and start doing it yourself, right? So Guy Talks, is that space for guys to rise in the brotherhood, and that's our purpose, is the brotherhood, but adventure is our call, right? An adventure. I mean, I don't know about you, Mike, when you were younger, but I was always seeking an adventure, right?
Sure.
When we didn't have responsibilities, mom and dad were doing things, we'd wake up and be like, what's the adventure today? Like hopping fences and running around, and then let's go build a fort. Let's get on.
Yeah.
I'm going to age myself here. The big wheel.
Big
guys
wheel,
that are, probably later 40s, early 50s. When I say big wheel, they're kind of like, oh yeah, right. Just being out there, just doing life and having fun, and basically being in an adventure, right? So we want to get guys. We want to call them into a brotherhood. We want to, rise into a brotherhood and call them into an adventure. That's important. And too many guys are just trying to do life alone, right? And Guy Talks is a positive place for guys to be brave in, come out, expand, get excited about the future, regardless where they're at right now. Guy Talks will help men like reconnect, rise, and move forward towards something that is valuable for that man, who's trying to navigate his water, navigate life. I think every guy wants to wake up and contribute at a high level, not just for the sake of getting an object. I think guys just really care. Like good guys just really want to and go out there and make a difference and have their existence have impact on the people they really do care about.
I appreciate your laser focus on this. I appreciate how clear it is for you. It's very, very cool, because the reason that people always said that we should all get together, the reason that people said it to me anyways on my end, is the idea that we are really laser focused on the purpose of what it is that we want. Like he changed it as like, the idea, there's been so many little taglines, as a prevention in your pocket. The idea of, leave something that, take something that you need, having a tool on you at all times where there is, potential for that connection, that brotherhood, that you are not alone. And let's rise up. And we wanted to come up with a digital solution. And again, the laser focus and the clarity on that is tremendous. And we've always said, we really want to get though to the point where you get off the device and you get into real connection, real relationship, real, the device is great and it's awesome. And it's a tool, but the tool needs to make something. And what it needs to make is the opportunity for guys to go and seize a better life, to go and improve their situation. And that's what the tool is. Now, vice versa, the flip of that is, people always said, oh, Mike, you need to get together with Pierre, because Pierre is every bit as crystal clear, laser focused. Guy Talks is a place where guys get together. There is no digital, it's in person. And it's so funny. The first time we met, the idea of, you go looking over our side of the fence and going, oh yeah, that's the element that I kind of need to add a little bit to what we're doing. We're looking over your side of the fence going, oh yeah, we need to add that as well. That's how I have seen this since we've met and since we've started talking about collaborating and some of the events that we might be doing here together. It's exciting stuff coming up. That's kind of the impression that I've seen it. I just want to see, is that how you've seen it too? I just want to kind of document it here. That's how you've seen it too, right?
I get super excited, because when similarly to it all comes to the same premise of even the idea of guy rising into brotherhood. Like a brotherhood is a community, right? There's also a community behind the community, which is us, right? Just like-minded leaders that are looking to make a difference into the bigger picture of all the guys out there. And we all have a path, and sometimes we can just collaborate, come together, and build something bigger than just one head alone, right? When you get multiple guys like yourself, me, and whoever else, we can, lock arms as a group of guys looking to that have creative thoughts on how to get us from A to B. We're here and we want to go to there. And when we see the gaps, as you said, like, hey, the in-person gap, the digital, what we're doing here, even like, testing, like, hey, even though we're both here in Kelowna, hey, let's try this out because this is kind of unique way we can do things too. It's like we're getting curious about what's possible. And I think when we start going down the road of curiosity with the right heart and the right intention leading us down that road, amazing things will come out of it. And really what those amazing things look like is this guy's really truly benefiting from these efforts where they can come and have real conversations, meaningful connections, practical growth, a place where they can get encouraged. And like to your point, just to link it back to your question again, is like to do that though, we need tools. Like what we're doing here is a tool. And I think us getting together and you're a guy and I'm a guy and we're having a talk. And it's guy talks, right? So we're having a conversation. Sometimes this is a great method. Like it's a piece of the puzzle that's painting the picture of where we're trying to go. And we're trying to allow guys to have opportunities to listen into these things, not only digitally, but in person. And then when they got spare time, they can whip up an app and connect, right? Because you have the big group once a month, and then we have something Mike called the crew. I think we can relate to that word. What crew are you a part of? Because when you're doing the heavy lifting, like I talked about that silver in the crucible, and you're really looking at yourself, you're seeing some things. The crew is where some of the heavy lifting is going to take place, right? So where you can get into the weeds, you can get into the positive things, you can get into all kinds of stuff where you're a part of a smaller knit crew that has your six, has your back, is there for you. You can text them, on the fly. You're not waiting for 30 days to the next Guy Talk event. Like you have your crew. So we like to get guys into the brotherhood and then put them into a crew. And this is part of the call to the adventure, right? There's an adventure to go through all that process.
I love how you talk about adventure. I just want to, an aside, because I want to talk about how you got to this place. I mean, you just hit another mountaintop yesterday, a mountaintop that, that the only mountaintop that there is really when it comes to this category, it's age. You turn 51, right? And at 51 years old,
Mike.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Like I'm 50 and I mean, I really enjoyed hitting that mountaintop. I really enjoyed hitting that, knowing, and it's one of those things where the 50-year-old version of me wishes I could go back and impart some of the things that I have learned to the 25-year-old version of me who thought he knew it all, who thought, he had the world by the tail. And really at the end of the day, that guy was a fool. That guy was so innocent and ignorant and didn't know. And just listening to you at this point and how clear things are for you. And before we get to the origin of where Guy Talks came from and where, your journey that brought you here, I use the word journey. Journey is a good word. It's a co-opted word. It's everywhere, but it's still a good word. But you talk about adventure, and I love how you use that word. And I think about when I was a boy, and how even when I was a boy, and I would hear people who are my age now talk about, oh, when I was your age, and it's literally I'm becoming that guy, the when I was your age guy, right? But I think about back then, and technology was so different, and adventure had a much different connotation, or at least how we satisfy the receptors in our brain that's looking for adventure was very different, in the 80s and 90s than it is now. Back then, there was so much creativity, and so much of it was outside of the house. And the video games started getting good, and the video games started getting to the point where you're sucked into some of these stories. Like I remember when I played Final Fantasy 3 for the Super Nintendo. That'll date me a little bit, but at least for the younger people, they'll understand. Oh wait, that guy actually knows how to, he knows a little bit about what it is that we do. I put probably 40 hours into that game, and at that time, that was a lot. And I feel like that's 40 hours of satisfying chemically in my brain the adventure thing. But I feel like, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that experience a lot. I actually played through that game with a friend, which is kind of cool. But at the end of the day, I think part of it is artificial. I think there's other receptors that don't get hit when the adventure is getting hit, but you're not doing it communally, like in person. And when you talk about adventure, I love the fact that you make that such a priority with Guy Talks. How far along the line? We'll get to the origin of Guy Talks in a second, but when did it kind of the thunderbolt of inspiration kind of hit you that adventure is a key ingredient to what it is that you and your team have built?
Yeah, I think what you got to consider is as we grow up and we take on more and more responsibility, at first you're like, getting back to my original story about when you woke up as a kid, you just sort of, what's the adventure today, right? And you just found your buddies, and your imagination went wild, and you would look at an area like a park, and you come up with amazing ideas of how to have fun and explore it. And as you get older, more responsibility comes in. Suddenly you move out, you got to pay some bills, and then suddenly you get an animal, and you got to care for that. And then you have a partner, you got to care for that person. And then you get a job, and then you're responsible for that. And it just keeps on stacking on. And then you become the performance guy. You're just trying to get that results. You're trying to get the thing, and you're just going. And what dies a little bit is the excitement for adventure to some degree. Because you're just so caught up in trying to make the mark, right? You forget about it. And to me, like, I like to get guys excited again, like they were when they were young and woke up, and just like, how are we gonna have fun today? And it's not to eliminate the responsibility. It's we got to be real. We got to take care of important things in our life, but at the same time, let's get excited again. Where does the imagination go? How can we just, like last night, I was sitting around celebrating my birthday with a bunch of dudes.
To be there, man. I wanted to be there so bad. I wish I could. I was doing a financial seminar last night. I really wanted to be there. Man. And we're just sitting here. No, I missed out. I got the FOMO. Just like with the Guy Talk thing. If I'm not going to go to the Guy Talk, I got the FOMO. Anyway, sorry. I wish I could have been there. Cigars and scotch, right?
It's okay. Of course. Yeah. We're sitting around. It was good times, man. We're just sitting around having conversation. But, back to the excitement thing. It's just guys just sitting back, and you get to see the weight coming off. They're just unpacking their week, sharing their struggles, their victories, and just around a circle, like, kind of seeing the image in my background there, and just getting real, talking about the future. Every guy's it's like a map. Like when you're in the Brotherhood, and to the adventure side is like, we're all in our own hero's journey, and we go up and down through various seasons. But when we're together, and like, that's what I experienced even last night. And it's just that connection that you can have with a circle of guys. you get to listen in on their journey and their hero's journey, and you get these nuggets of truth and all this sort of stuff. And guys, when we start talking, when we get into like, hey, we should be doing this, we talked about like Port of Erda and doing something, and as we got into this idea of we're here, we can do this adventure down the road, you just see the guys get excited, hey, yeah, this or that, and you can just see their creativity start bubbling to the top, and and it's nice to sit back as I'm taking a sip and I'm listening in and watching this happen, and just see guys feel like joy, right? They're feeling pleasure being in the room, being with the brothers. To me, that was just neat to and you can see the load coming off as they're just getting excited again, right?
Yeah.
And that's like life breathing, right? To men, like you're breathing in more life, more capacity, to be able to take on the next challenge. It's like when we go to sleep, we need 8 hours, 7, 8 hours sleep because our brain needs to like drain. I remember one guy said this to me, analogy really well. It's like a bunch of parking lot. It's like you have a parking lot up here, and then during the day, all these cars come in and it's a full parking lot. And then when you fall asleep, the cars slowly start coming out. If you don't get enough sleep, there's still cars in the parking lot. They can't take any more customers for the next day. So similarly here, guys need that opportunity in the brotherhood to sort of get too excited, get to adventure, and that kind of is like the cars moving out, leaving room for excitement. It allows them that space to open up more of that into their mind, into their heart, into their passions. And it was neat to sort of see that unravel as I was just having a sip and going like, this is great.
Yeah, you were watching it happen organically, real time around you on your birthday. That's a really, really cool thing. 51 years, on this planet. I gotta know, like, okay, so you're so crystal clear on what you want to see with Guy Talks. You see the need, all of these things. You see where you want to go. You've done some really, really cool stuff with this. I want to go back. I want to go back to the origin. Like, what was it that built you to bring you, that built the life experience to bring you to this place that you're at right now? So let's talk a little bit about, like we talked about this. It's going to be good to get this one out of the way. I'm like, let's have you on the show right away. Let's get the origin story out there. Once the origin story's out there, then you can tell some real cool stories, and then you can focus on where you're going. But it's really cool to note where you came from, because again, there's going to be a lot of parallels. Guys are going to be listening to this. They're going to be, hearing some parallels of some of the places that you've been, and how it's led to this place. And by the way, for the listener, it's also led you to this place to hear this on this day, whenever it is, whether it's close to the time that we recorded this or years later. The idea that Pierre's evolution led to this moment here, which led to the moment that you're listening to this. I don't believe in coincidence. I just flat out don't. And I don't believe it's coincidental that you are 51 on the cusp of taking Guy Talks to a new level. I want to know kind of what started it. So where'd you grow up? And what are some notable parts of your early life?
Yeah, I'll make that correlation. And then, so I grew up in Ottawa, and I was very, very, lucky and blessed that I did have a solid brotherhood, man. Like I had a large group of dudes that we rolled together. One of my best buddies, Jonathan Parody, amazing man, very solid business leader, developer, builder in Ottawa. And him and I locked arms at the ripe age of 2, just neighbors and stuff like that. And I moved out here in '94, and I was 19. And
I was going to say, I graduated 94. So okay. High school, all of that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's the West, and it's a big jump to go from what was the call from Ottawa to British Columbia? What was that? What was the catalyst to send you out here?
Well, it was actually my parents. So, I mean, like at 19, I was still figuring things out, as you might recall, Mike. We're trying to piece life together. And I didn't
I'll tell
know
you when
where.
I did it. I'll tell you when I get there, buddy. By the way, we're trying to figure it out today. I'll tell you when we get there.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah, we're still figuring that out. But at the time, I was like 19. My dad, he started out in the Navy and then went to the RCMP. He's a very talented musician. But he was 17, right? So like in the Navy, in the RCMP, so he was able to retire at like 46, like full pension and everything.
Wow.
So, and when that happens, you can go anywhere in the world. The RCMP will like pay for that because they were able to move you around. So now that you're retired, you have 2 years to pick your spot. My dad's traveled across the country and seen many things in his travels, representing Canada as the band, the RCMP band. So they just traveled around, and he was the announcer, because he could speak French and English. And I was very. It was a fun upbringing. I got to go to lots of these shows, and there's like Celine Dion, Frank Sinatra, like all kinds of them famous people.
Wow.
And my dad would just I would just be running around. I remember one time being in the back where there's actors and some famous people, but I didn't know. I just walk in. My dad would be like, "Yeah, come here." Like, you can't just walk in there. Anyways, that's sort of like a side story.
Did he play? Could he play any instrument?
Like 10 instruments. Like he played like all the lutes and drums, and yeah, my dad was just very talented when it came to that area of life, music, right?
Wow. And those guys and gals, they can play. That is serious stuff.
Amazing ear for super smart too. But anyways, like just to get back to on the line here, is my dad retired from that, right? Like that was my point. And basically he traveled doing that, and seen parts of Western Canada. And I remember I came home from school, I saw a for sale sign. I thought it was the neighbor's house because our homes were attached. It was so I kind of thought it was the McNamara's. That's our immediate neighbor. He was a lawyer at the time, and now I think he's like the highest Supreme Court judge of Canada. Like it's crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Jim McNamara. Yeah, anyways, so I thought it was on his lot, and it wasn't. It was on mine, and I figured, oh crap, okay, we're selling the house. I guess we're going somewhere. I thought it was going to be in the area, and then my parents were at the table. Hey, Pierre, how was I just graduated and all that, and they're like, yeah, we because my dad just came actually from visiting a friend, Peter Spriggs, who lives in Penticton, who was a guy who influenced him to go from when he was in Nova Scotia to go into the RCMP and move to Ottawa. That's where I was born. And so he went to go visit him because he was already retired, Peter, that is. And just loved the area, the Okanagan and all that kind of stuff. And then while they were here, they bought a house. So, okay.
Wow.
So they're like, yeah, we're going to go. We bought a house. We're in a place called Kelowna. I was like, what? Like, I didn't even think of BC at all. It was just like a green place in the map that rained, where that, that's all I thought about BC. Like, it never even entered into my cerebral cortex. I was like, whatever. So anyways, I didn't have a solid direction at the time of where I was headed. So I just jumped in with mom and dad, and we cruised over here. So that's what kind of like brought me over here. But to again, to sort of link some things here together. I had that brotherhood back here, right? And at even when I came out here, I just noticed, like, obviously you're starting from scratch when you go to a place you've never been, and I definitely missed that kind of stuff. And it was in the back of my mind, I just kind of had that craving. Now let's push forward a little bit here to guy talks of today. So, I lived life between that point of 19 and to we'll call it a season. We all have seasons, but some of them are.
Hold on. Can I ask you a question about that? I got a question about that. In Ontario, they have grade 13, right?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if they have that anymore, but they did back then. Yeah.
They did back then. Okay. I always had a question about that I've never even bothered to ask my family members from Ontario. I just haven't. Okay. So I graduated grade 12. So my grad year was grade 12 in 1994. When you have grade 13 in Ontario, does that mean 94 was also your grad year? Or is your grad year after grade 12 and then grade 13 is like an extra thing that you can do?
So the way it worked is if you wanted to go to university,
Yes.
you take OAC.
You'd take
You want to
OAC at that point. But what
you,
was your
you,
grad year
you,
then?
yeah, mine was 94.
Oh, there you go. But 13 when okay, that's cool. So okay, so
You're
you
70, you're 76, baby, right?
yeah, I'm a 76 baby.
Yeah, I'm
So
70.
okay. So that being said, you're okay, so you're just getting out of high school at this point. You see the for sale sign, it's like we're moving.
Yeah.
Was there any part of you and did they give you the choice to say you could stay here
Oh yeah.
or was it just a
Oh,
solid
I
no,
had a
we're moving out west?
no, I had a choice. I mean, I
Did
decided to
any
stay.
part of you even consider staying?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Like
Ah,
I'm a musician. Like my like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I'm a musician. So I played the rock and roll. So I had a rock band. I had
yeah.
a girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
Solid lady. I had things kind of go in my direction.
Okay, so where I'm coming from is that's a massive thing. You got this life established and you're starting to like bloom in some ways. In some ways, you're just really being
Sure.
born in this
Sure.
area that you're born and raised, you're established, and then suddenly the rug gets pulled from underneath you. Do you remember like the conflicted feelings and all of that? For 19, that's some big stuff. That's some big stuff. Did you process it well at that point, or was there residual stuff that was left over, having to make such a monumental move at such a formative year?
Well, my sister and I, we've always been really like the four of us have been a pretty tight knit family.
Yeah,
So it just that was a pretty strong thing for us and a drive to be together. And so for me, it was definitely challenging to figure out what am I going to do and all that kind of stuff. So at 19, yeah, you're in a stage when you're at that age in your life where you have an identity crisis. You're trying to figure out who you are, where you're going.
yeah,
Yeah, sure. It doesn't help when the few things you do have established is suddenly now also uncertain, right? Like
yeah,
suddenly you're in a place with no friend group where you had a friend group over there. You're going to a place where I had a good relationship going at the time with a lady, and now that's really kind of like non-existent. Um,
hmm
so yeah, I mean it's it's a lot to digest, but I'm very connected to my parents. And I trust, my dad saw something. So I was just like following his leadership and just went the direction. And it was a long drive, dude. I remember that drive. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, man. That was like insane
How many
drive.
vehicles?
2 days to get out of Ontario, and people don't realize just how big our country is. Like it's massive, and it's a long drive. Like I remember the prairies, man. Like you literally can see your dog run away for 3 days. Like it is flat as heck, man. And like old feller, man, he could just keep running, and he's not out of sight, and he's not out of mind. He's there. Like this.
Well, the gigantic country and the fact that Ontario is really only the center of it. A lot
Yeah.
of people think, oh yeah, I'm going out east to Ontario. Well, yeah, it is east from where we are here, but it's only the center of the country. Yeah, vast country. 3-4 day drive probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How many vehicles?
We just brought the one. Like I
Okay.
sold what I had. I had a Chevette, so a
Attaboy.
white Chevette where I remember the driver.
Man, you had a vet growing up. Oh my God, you had a vet.
Yeah,
Oh.
I wish I had that. Dude, man, it was a ride, bro. It was a ride. That was a one sexy car. I gotta tell you, the ladies just wanted to jump into that ride. Oh yeah.
Oh, that was always the thing. Right? Again, these are those little things that are lost. Kids who grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, that was the thing. When a kid at school had a Chevette, oh my God, look at the vet. You got a vet. Good for you. Like that was always a joke from back then. It's just lost now, right? It's just one of those things where it's a joke that's captured in time and place, and it just kind of goes away. You make it to BC. And at that point, their time to sort of establish or really, reestablish. Do you remember back then if there were because sometimes when we start a new life, one of the benefits from that is that it's like hitting the reset button. When you hit the reset button, you can kind of start new things that you might not have done before, but you now have an opportunity to say, okay, well, in my new life, I'm going to do this. Back then, were you cognizant enough to know any of those little things here? Okay, as we start this new life, I'm going to blank.
Not really, I was just sort of sorting myself out. I was just like
Mm,
every 19-year-old, just again, who are you? What's your identity? What do you want to do? Or where are you going
mm-hmm,
to go?
mm-hmm,
Trying to figure out life. And at the time, I actually was very fascinated in the medical community, and I was going to either be a naturopathic doctor,
mm-hmm,
and I also looked at nursing school,
mm-hmm.
potentially. I just like to care for people, help out where I can, and didn't go down that road. So I had to go down the road of science. I did my first semester. My friend Jonathan, that guy I was telling you about, he moved over to Banff because he took an horticultural degree and stuff. So he's like working on the golf course. He's like, "Hey, Pierre, I came all the way this far. You come the rest of the way back towards
Yeah.
Banff." And so I just packed my books up after the first semester and just was like, "Okay, I'm putting a pause on that." And then I just went, to visit him and work at the Banff Springs Hotel. Now
Oh
it's
my
called
God.
the
Formative years. Okay, hold on. Early 20s
or
in Banff. Early 20s in Banff. That is an experience right there.
it was
Banff,
96.
Alberta.
It was 96. It was
Oh my
96.
gosh. Yeah.
And so yeah, I just hung out over there for a year, and then I came back and decided, okay, I think business is where I wanted. That's the direction I think I want to hit. And
Yep.
then I started my BBA degree, and
Mm-hmm.
then in my third year, between my third and fourth year, met my wife at to be, and and then we moved out, got a place. My first job, I was managing a restaurant, 10 in the morning, 10 at night, just going hard, getting
Where was
ready to
that?
here in Kelowna.
What restaurant?
Kelsey's, now it's the spaghetti factory.
Oh my God. I was just saying to Candy the other day, there was a Kelsey's commercial. We don't have Kelsey's here anymore, but they're still around, obviously. I loved Kelsey's. I
We
loved
did a
that
good job,
place.
man. I'm surprised, like, so sad to see it go, because it was a really solid family restaurant that kind of had a little everything in there, you
Yep.
know?
It was a great
And
spot to go. It was a great spot to go. I love that place. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the old spaghetti factory too, but I was one of those guys that really loved Kelsey's. I know our paths crossed back then for sure. I went
oh
there
yeah,
a lot.
you would have come in. I would have been running around, doing my thing.
So you opened it because I
Yeah.
believe they built a building there specifically. You guys were the first. I
Yeah.
believe they built it for you guys.
Yeah. I just graduated. My mom, the story was simple. My mom didn't want me to leave. I was looking at Calgary. So she was in the paper and she's like, "Oh, there's this new place opening." And, I went down there and went through the ringer. Actually, I was going to start off as a server. And then after doing some interviewing and talking, they're like, "No, we think based upon you coming out of your university with your degree like that, like you could come into management." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, great. This is perfect." All
Yep.
right. So I came back and told my mom, like, "Yeah, I can get a job as a manager there." And she's like, "Oh, that means you're going to stay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it looks that way." I'm like, I mean, that's a good opportunity. So I jumped into
Absolutely.
that, and
But also into the from the frying pan into the fire, restaurant business. Like, and that's a busy restaurant. You're turning over a lot of tables in that place.
yeah.
Boy, what an education you got working there. How long did that last?
I was there for a little over a year, and then I realized that I got my degree, my BBA, but I kind of focused in marketing,
Yep.
and sales and stuff. And I realized, like, I was learning some great, obviously, people skills, like in the restaurant industry. That was phenomenal. But I thought I wanted to do something more along the marketing, like where my degree was. And I had a guy, Ken Hutchinson, love you, buddy. And he was selling bus advertising, and he was talking it up, and he's just like, "I'm not really liking this role, and I think I'm going to branch out into something else." And I'm like, "Well, if you quit, let me know, man." And 2 weeks later, he's like, "Yeah, I'm out." And he introduced me to the big kahuna out of Vancouver, flew in, and I met with him over lunch, and he's like, "Yeah, you got the job." And I'm like, "Great." So I left Kelsey's and went over to selling bus advertising. And I looked over 12 cities, doing that, with obviously Kelowna being the main one. And I did very well over the years of doing that, and learned a ton of things. And now it's a part of, like, networking and being, you know, in the community for a long time. I knocked on a lot of doors, and brought some business and did my thing. So that's sort of that part of my season, if you will.
Yeah. And then the young marriage at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wanted to have kids and wanted to get life going. And, you know, I had that typical idea, you know, get married, get the kids, picket fence, get the place, you know.
We talk about this on the show all the time, Pierre, and I mean the way that we the shorthand for it is the connect the dots part, and how it's just so ingrained into our culture, especially the kids that are in public education. The idea of, you know, you go to school, and then go to the extra school if you have to, or the trade school, or you do what you got to do so you can get the job. And you get the job. The reason you get the job is so you can get the wife and you can buy the house and you can have the kids and you connect the dots. You connect the dots
Yeah,
if you're supposed to connect.
that's
But
right.
what you don't really talk about is the picture that you would like to have the dots represent and have them connect. It doesn't talk about that. It's just like, no, just connect the dots, look at the picture later. And that picture is our purpose. The picture is who we are. The picture is these greater things that we started our conversation talking about when it comes to guy talks. Going through life and starting to build your life and build the identity, the ups and downs of all of that stuff. When did it become apparent to you that connecting the dots that we're supposed to connect to doesn't necessarily correlate with the purpose of the calling of being a man?
Um, you know, I think what ends up happening is you go as you walk through life, you go into seasons, right? And
Mhm.
you know, being a man or whatever, I mean, just being a good person, you know, like you have to develop your character, right? And you got to
Yeah.
be able to understand life isn't always roses and good times. And how you show up in the room when things are when there's pressure, right?
Mm.
And you got to show up in the right way, you know. And that's your character development, you know. I think when we get down this road of like how do you operate in a way that's going to give life, right? I use the
Yep.
analogy, the question around you know, developing as a man or whatever. You can see the flame over there,
Mm.
and I won't go down the road too much, but you know, it gives off light and heat, right? So when a guy comes in and he's working on himself, and to be a good person, you know, you want to have an energy to you that is warm, you know, where people want to come up and talk with you. You have an energy. Yeah, you know, you have to work on that, and I think that comes from when you're taking on these connecting the dots of, and really the dots are responsibility. Like get the house, so that's more responsibility. Get the dog, that's more responsibility. I remember I was in the doctor's room to get a physical to get a checkup,
Yep.
and I looked on the wall and it had like the top 12 most stressful things. I had like 8 of them going on. I was getting married. I got a new job. I got a dog. I just had them. I was like, holy smokes. And I said to the doctor again, look, I got like 8 of those out of the 12, you know, right now happening. You know, so I
And
just,
it doesn't even occur to you. It doesn't even occur to you, but then you look at it and go, "Oh my god, I'm actually doing some heavy lifting."
yeah, yeah. And then, and as you're doing the heavy lifting, as they say, like to create a diamond, right, it has to be under pressure, right?
Mm.
So that's a part of the journey, right? Is like to become the better version. Like I've always heard that be careful if you want to learn how to get patient, because you're probably going to get scenarios that are going to come that's going to make you learn how to be patient, right? Um, you don't get no pain, no gain, right? If
Yep.
I want to go and get more muscles or whatever, I'm not going to just wake up one day and have muscles. I'm going to have to go through some pain of pushing weight to get muscle, right? So there's just no shortcuts to life, you know.
Yep.
And you're being forged. Back to your sword analogy, you're being forged under the heat, under being banged on, right? You're getting forged, right? So that's the part of, you just don't wake up one day and you're a man, you know, or
Right.
you're a good person. You know, you have to be forged. You have to be forged, right? And that comes from life. And those are the things where maybe you're connecting the dots and you don't recognize the forging that's going to happen.
So very well put. Very well put. So okay, you go through life, you start building the family, all of that sort of stuff. Different businesses come and go, all the things that happen, relationships, all of that. Do you remember the first time you thought about what would now become Guy Talks? But do you remember the first time that there was a thought where there was an itch that needed to be scratched of some sort that would evolve into Guy Talks? Do you remember the very first inkling?
Well, I mean, not of Guy. I know the inkling of Guy Talks. I can get to that, but I think to sort of track with you a little bit, with with going like sort of like just my idea around brotherhood. Again,
Sure.
that was like when I first moved out here, recognizing sometimes to recognize something, it has to be removed.
There you go.
So I
Yep.
had it, and then I
Yep.
didn't have it.
Yep.
And then when you don't have something, you recognize the value that it did have in your life, right?
Right.
And I didn't have that. So I mean, I felt that right away when I moved out here. Like
And
I
that's a
don't.
long time ago. It's a long time before Guy Talks even, okay.
Yeah,
So
so that, like that's if
there's
you
a
want to
kernel
talk
there.
about that
Yeah.
genesis, like the first inkling.
Yeah. That's a seed.
Obviously, the word Guy Talks and all that stuff wasn't in my head at all.
No, no,
I
no,
just
no.
knew I didn't have that solid brotherhood that I had. um, you know, growing up. And when you're at that stage of your life when you're younger and you have those guys you're rolling with, like you're all in the same camp, right? We're all the same
Mm-hmm.
age. We're all the same sort of area or time in our life, or if we're all in an identity crisis. We're all trying to figure things out,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how to just live life successfully, right? And we're tripping over ourselves, trying to get our
Mm-hmm.
first jobs. We're trying to just get out there and figure our way through it all. And then move out here, recognize I'm in a new chapter, and I don't have that, right? I mean, I kind of did. I'd be on the phone or whatever, but not the same, So
Mm-hmm.
that would be the first time when I kind of realized that's a good need.
And then when you realize that as you go through life, you run into people who obviously don't have that and don't even realize they don't know what they don't have. And you see it suddenly. You realize, you get asked questions. So, do you have in your turn, do you have brotherhood in your life? Well, what's brotherhood? Like, yeah, do you have a group of guys that you can, go and be vulnerable with and you can vent to and all of that kind of stuff and have that, again, that iron sharpens iron thing? No, it doesn't even occur to a lot of guys out there until the moment where they hit adversity. And
Sure.
and suddenly that's when sometimes this recognition can come in. Interesting the fact that you got that kind of bird's eye view on this part of it that early. Okay, so that's an intangible one. If there are any other intangibles along the way, kind of feel free to or little insights, little seeds that you picked up along the way. Feel free to go through those, because I feel like Guide Talks is probably a culmination of a few of these seeds coming together to then spark up to, oh wait, we can do something here. But Guide Talks itself. So when those seeds are kind of gathered, um, when Guide Talks itself became a concept in your mind, an idea, when did that happen?
So the Guy Talks thing itself. So I went. So I was married for basically I was going into my 20th year of marriage, and
Mm-hmm.
this is right around COVID, and when everybody was being challenged, and I had a strong. I think when you're married that long, and we were dating for 3, so it was basically we're going on 23 years together. Your
Yep.
identity is intertwined with that person, right? It just
Yep.
right because you've been together so long. Hey, how is how are you guys? It's always how are you guys doing?
Mm-hmm.
How are you guys doing? And that goes like your coworkers will ask you that, your friends will ask you that, extended family will ask you that, people in the community that kind of know you indirectly or directly will ask you that. And with us, we were both extroverted people, so and I was always out there networking. So like for me, that I was just, and I didn't really believe in certain things at the time and whatever. So that was as a part of my identity, and the way I saw life and at the time and things. And so when she decided to part ways, that was really hard, man. So I was going through what I call relationship season.
Mhm.
where my identity was uncertain again back when I was like 19, suddenly I'm thrown back into that kind of mind, and this is pulled apart. I'm broken. I was a broken man. I was having a hard time trying to piece together the next steps. Just had a deep care for my kids. Like, how's this going to affect them? Just everything was running through my mind, and just I was just real beaten up. I guess I was just having a really tough time, and I went back to, like, obviously when I was younger and how I dealt with that, and I had the Brotherhood, right? Like, it would help me get through, and I had some great guy connections. Don't get me wrong. Like, I had some great guys around me. Very still fortunate that I was able to establish some of that. But I recognize, though, in the community, there's nothing really out there for guys to sort of like go into an environment, into a room, an event, something, where they can just leave their shit at the door and
Yep.
come in and be real, have a conversation. And I didn't think much of it, man. Like, I just recognized, okay, it's not there. I was, kind of working through my own stuff, trying to figure things out, trying to support the kids, trying to get myself back on my feet. Um, Fast forward months and months and months and months. I mean, like I mentioned, I'm always networking. A guy in my network, didn't know him personally. It was just like in my vicinity.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I just knew his story, and his business was not doing well, going through a divorce, and took his life. Right. So that wasn't cool. And then I just sort of sat back and I thought to myself, like, look, I have these talents that I've been able to use in my life to get out there and build things. But I've never done anything, maybe super meaningful that I can make a difference with those skills on. And I've always noticed this need. Um, let's that was like sort of like I like to use the analogy. I wanted to get off the bench. Like, I wanted to get in the
Mm.
game. Like, I just didn't want to sit and be just a spectator. So
Yeah.
I just sat down on my couch and I thought, okay, let's think of a logo. And then the flame analogy I gave to you is like, guys that are working on themselves. I like around a campfire. The camp gives heat, and a brotherhood can kind of give heat. A guy who comes in with positive energy, can provide that heat. And then, the light is sort of like, sorry. So the light is sort of like that positive energy. The heat is
Yep.
really conversation. So words of encouragement and all that kind of stuff. And so I was just brainstorming on the whole idea of what the imagery would look at. And so that's where the flame, the campfire kind of came from. And then the slogan, connect, grow, and thrive. I just say, hey, let's get guys into connection. Let's get some kind of educational thing like we're talking about. It could be the art of encouragement. It could be learning about addiction or anything, right? Like, whatever
Mhm.
topic we want to jump into. Relationships is the one coming up, which we'll talk about.
Yep.
And that's the growing stage. Like, just that, let's learn from each other, let's grow. And then by doing that, when they go back into their work environment, they go back into their home, they go back into the community, they're going to thrive a little better because now they're
Different perspective,
deploying.
more preparation, more tools. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
connect, grow, thrive. And then I was sitting there on the couch and just going, okay, I let's design this and put this together. And I thought, okay, well, I reached out to Redbird, Adam over there, good guy, one of the co-owners, and I'm like, I don't know, man, what's going to come of this, but I just picked January 14th of 25,
Hmm.
and and decided to, I'm like, hey, put some stuff on your Instagram, I'll put some stuff on mine or whatever, and like 50 guys showed up, like crazy. I was like, okay, there's obviously something here. I remember Adam going, like, I guess you got something going on here, man. Like, I'm like, yeah. Right?
How
So
did that feel? How'd that feel that night when dudes started showing up? And I mean, and also, like, were there guys who were kind of showing up, like, kind of, they were kind of sheepish about it or whatever? Like, was it like that night? That
nobody
must have
was
been a
giving
very
that.
cool night. That must have been a
Yeah,
very
nobody
cool
was
night.
giving that body language there, but
Yeah.
I'd go around, obviously introduce myself, talk to as many of the guys I could.
Yep.
What one thing I did find interesting that still exists today is the diversity of the type of guys that are just coming out,
Right.
and the introverted guys that just want to come and be in a room, right?
Yep.
Not the talkative, but like just wanted to get out, and do something. And that was
And
the win. It's
absorb,
that simple.
absorb the heat, absorb the heat.
Yeah,
Feel,
well, just
look,
be
see
around.
the
Yeah,
light and absorb the heat. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes
they
you
want to
need.
be around the
I say
fire.
this. I say this to the members of my team in my office. Sometimes I need to go somewhere when it comes to personal development. Like I love helping to lead people. I love doing that. But that's feeding, right? You're feeding. Sometimes I also need to get fed.
That's right.
I
Yeah,
need to charge myself up. And the
yeah,
idea that even the first event was a place where
yes,
some guys could go and just, be warmed by the fire and get charged
yeah.
back up again. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. You stepped right into it, right on the very first one. That's cool.
And one of the things that we try to promote, and I tried to do this at the very beginning, is there's lots of networking opportunities out there, the chamber, whatever, they're all great.
Hmm.
And I did not want Guy Talks to be a networking opportunity, right?
There you
It's,
go.
I care more about who you are than what you do. Not that
There
what
you
you
go.
do is not important. It is. It's very important.
Sure.
And it
Sure.
even forms a little bit of your identity to some degree. So it's not like it's not a part of the conversation. That's not the point. The point is not that it's not on the table. It's on the table. It's what's first on the table, right? The
Right.
first thing you're going to eat is going to be who are you, right? And I call that real conversation. Real
Hmm.
conversation. Not, hey, I'd like to get to know you. Here's what I do, and maybe we can have some synergy, and you can help
Yeah.
me, and I can help you. No, like that's not like the lead. The lead is, hey man, how's your week? What's going on? Because I try to keep things very positive in the sense of like again, like the results we're looking for. But the reality is, I'll use this gingerly, but I mean, like guys, one of the biggest obstacles in statistics is we're isolated. Now, I like to use my understanding of isolation. So I don't want anybody to be sitting there thinking some dude or a person who's isolated is just on the couch and, kind of looking depressed. I mean, sure, that happens to some people, but I'm
Hmm.
talking about isolation in the mind. Okay. We compartmentalize something, we put it in a box, we shove it in the back, and we're thinking about it. And you could be in a room with like 100 people, and on the front facing, you're looking great,
Right.
but in the back, you have three compartments that are like imprisoning these like deep things that are going on in your life. And I like to say, for using language that I think resonates with men, is we need to be more brave about that,
Hmm.
and if you come into a space and it's kind of like you go in the old times, it was simple. Like, we went to war, right? Like,
Right.
one tribe fighting another tribe, and you come back and some didn't, and some were bleeding, and you talk
Hmm.
about the war stories and all that kind of stuff. And, it was a little bit more self-evident, where in this modern age, the battlefield is no longer like running across a literal field to maybe die. It's like, it's in here, the battle of the mind. And you have to renew your mind, and you have to have a battle, and you need a brotherhood that is they're all in the same boat, right? And to be brave just simply means to bring that out. So within the brotherhood, within the crew, does you go into the bigger group, but then you need to go to the crew. So this is the more heavy lifting that will happen probably within the crew.
Hmm.
You bring that forward, right? And bring those things that are in isolation in your head out, and things get dealt with. Now, we're not counselors. We're not trying to, that's not our lane.
No, no, no,
But
no, no, no. No, no. I just got to bring this up because, again, you and I are both personal development guys. Like, again, you go back to one of the greatest personal development books of all time, Think and Grow Rich. It's a mentality book. It's not even so much a money book. It's a mentality book. And very early in that book, it talks about the mastermind, the idea of different people from different walks of life coming together and just talking about where they're at and whatnot. And the idea of the power that unlocks with a mastermind. So what you're talking, you're tapping in, and you and I've talked about this before off
oh yeah,
camera. You're tapping into something communal and strong, and something there, and like part of the, like, there's adventure there too, because
oh big time.
vulnerability can be adventure, right? But that's not adventure that's gonna that a video game is gonna cover. This is something very, very different. And the idea of those collaborations, with no outcome except everybody just being there and being themselves. Boy, a lot of different healing from a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different points of view, a lot of different lives can occur simultaneously in the same place. all viewing the same thing, coming out with completely different outcomes.
Think
And
about
you've
this.
seen that a lot with these meetings, right?
Oh yeah, think about it this way. It's like we jump into our car, right?
Yeah,
And we want to go from where we are to another point of interest. And if we have a GPS, we put our coordinates in, and it gives us the shortest pathway from where we are to where we want to go, right?
sure. Yep. Yep.
Think about the Brotherhood as a GPS system.
Okay.
You could get in your car and have no GPS, and you're going to find yourself maybe on some side roads, and you might not take the shortest path from here to there, right?
Right.
When you come in and you bring what's in here out there into the Brotherhood, into your crew, and you talk through that kind of stuff, the GPS starts turning on because other guys have gone down that road, and they can be like that okay, don't go on that side street, just keep on the highway, and you can get a little bit more direction on
Right.
what to do, right? To your
Right.
point, mastermind, right? But I'm putting this, like, mastermind is very commonly used like in business or whatever, but here
Sure.
it's like, you just bring it down to a more intimate sort of social construct. Is like, guys back in the, like, we hunted and gathered and whatever, but we did it in packs, and like,
Yeah.
a pack of wolves is formidable, right? But a single wolf is prey. Like, you don't want to go and navigate in your car of life and find yourself on off streets and not know where you're going. Or if you're in a plane and you're flying up there, you're up in the sky. It's not like you can see everything, right? So they got
Mhm.
to rely on equipment that they have to make 2-degree turns every 20 minutes or whatever, is to make sure they're actually going to land in Paris and not in wherever else in the world that's not Paris, right? So
Yeah.
the pilot got to make all these adjustments, and they need all these tools, right? All these equipment, gauges to allow them to make sure they're on the right path. The gauges and the equipment are the other guys in the room. It's the Brotherhood,
Right.
right? Giving the insight, giving information that allows that guy to be now process those and push them forward, so that guy can go from here to there, right? And that's the importance of this.
And it's catching fire because you've done multiple events. It's getting, there's a groundswell that's happening. We've got events coming up, events that we're collaborating on, which is very,
Yeah,
very
we're
exciting. We got one July 26th. I think this will come out just before the July 26th one. We're doing one down at
yeah,
Lake House in Kelowna.
that's right. Yeah, Travis, he's a Red Seal chef. He's a beauty of a person. Killer cook. I remember just being down there, and man, he just cooked up a steak that was phenomenal. And my wife Ingrid, she doesn't eat a ton of steak.
Mhm.
And anyways, she was like, oh, it's a good, and he served it. It was so delicious. She was wanting more. I mean, and she loves steak and stuff. It's just her stomach sometimes, right, on that
Sure,
particular protein type. She eats
sure.
all other protein, but for whatever reason, that one. So anyhow,
Travis unlocked the code though.
Travis just locked it in.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation her and I still have. It was just so delicious, so tasty, right? And so, yeah, like, guys, like, it's super amazing. Like, who doesn't want to watch a Red Seal chef season steak in a way, and other proteins that just, is such an experience in your mouth, right? Just enjoying that high quality protein. And we all know about the conversations around protein. You have to have for every pound of weight, needs to be that much grams of protein, and we're a protein, right? So, I mean, to sit there and actually figure out how to make every single type of protein taste great, and then he's going to pair it with a scotch, and he's basically doing it at cost. Like, it's phenomenal. Like, he's just doing it out of care. It's not like the usual pricing, because he wants to contribute, make a difference, and that's what he's up to, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to have I think we're looking at about 30 plus dudes that are going to come out to that one. And I'm really looking forward to it. And we'll have one of these. We'll have a little talk there.
Yeah, you and I are going to do our thing, except we're going to do it live. We're going to kind of do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
That's good. I love your, okay. So the idea that whenever you have one of these events, I love that you want to make it an experience. And I love that you have that attention to detail where you're like, okay, we're going to do a guy talks, but I want to make sure that there's a culinary experience to it, that there's some Scotch, it's paired with the Scotch. We're going to have a really nice experience together. And oh, by the way, then there's also going to be a really meaningful conversation with, potential interaction with the audience and all that stuff. And then we're going to test potentially taking, for the very first time, one of your Guy Talk events into the digital realm as well. And we're going to practice that and see if we can maybe expand outside of the local at the same time, which is got to be, I mean, that's something you've kind of wanted to do from the very beginning. It's got to be exciting for you watching this thing kind of evolve.
Yeah, we want to. I mean, big, hairy, audacious goal, of course, is a million
Yeah.
men. Like, I'd love to see if that might not even be in my lifetime, but Guy Talks hopefully can continue beyond me or whatever. But just hitting a million men would be phenomenal. And we got Calgary itching at the bit, and I got a guy there that's looking to get things going. And I think the crew
Yep.
is the smaller group of guys is probably how we're going to do it as we want to expand across the country and maybe even
Yep.
into the US. I know you got lots of good connections down there, Mike. So like there's
Yep.
opportunities for us, but we need infrastructure in place. And this is the cool thing about using all the vehicles, right? All the ways of supporting men in this image or vision that we've been talking about here, and like
Yep.
having tools we mentioned, right? So and again, like getting things that are here and getting positive conversations around things and getting excited again about the adventure, and I think we could do that by using all these tools, right? So we got
Yeah.
things like this that you can listen to, a digital app that we're excited about, that you guys are working on, and just getting guys, like, again, this is all about that connection, enabling them to have a solid community in person and digitally. And that's like the complete package, as you were saying. Like, you saw me working out here, kind of, as we'd say, just in person with the guys at the local level, where there's a digital opportunity as well, and just bringing them all together is going to be super cool. And that's what we're trying to do. Not because I here's what I tell people. It's about going after the many to get the few, and I don't want to lose
Absolutely.
sight of that. To sometimes be like, is it just a popularity thing? Is this something that just grow like a bit, like, sure, like in the sense of like, we want to grow, but the heart behind the growth isn't for anything other than, let's get the many to get the few,
Yep.
and I've seen an event where I've had like 80 guys and I sit down with like 2 or 1, and that guy needed to be in the room, right?
Yep.
Like, but we had to maybe get 80 to get the 1, so how many other guys could really be in a bad spot? I'm talking about like back in my Genesis, where the guy was really going through some stuff and sadly made the wrong call. But like, how do we get to those guys? And there's a spectrum, right? There's the ones that are right there, and then there's the ones that are in the middle. Like, every guy kind of needs this. So yeah, the sooner we can get things and equip them with tools, the better. And I think the digital side is going to really help as we expand. And then once we get like 4 or 5 crews in place, which is about 4 or 5 guys per crew, in Calgary, whatever, then we'll have something like where you, me, Mike, and some other guys will go down there, and we'll do a first event and make it a nice thing and really launch the market, and then do the next one and the next one.
I love how you see it, and I love how you want to build this thing grassroots the whole way. It's inspiring to watch your clarity of vision and just how passionate you are for this thing. We're gonna do a comedy night at Dakota's. That's a comedy night dedicated to
cool.
shit. That's on August 7th. That's gonna be great. Then August 27th though is the next big Guy Talks event. And I want to talk about that because this is in some ways, a typical, if there is such thing as a typical Guy Talks event, every single one of them are so unique because you put so much thought into the experience. You talk about what the bite of steak is going to taste like. I mean, I love how you think about that. August 27th, relationships. And I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if there's a bigger topic that guys, on every level, when it comes to romantic, when it comes to workmates, when it comes to friendships, when it comes to the brotherhood, like you're talking
Right.
about here,
Yeah.
all us as guys are at different levels of being equipped in relationships, and
Yeah.
obviously the need is huge. And so you've got an evening on August 27th, 2026, dedicated to relationships. Let's talk about that night. Let's talk about what that guy talks night is going to look like.
Yeah, I just, as you could tell, like obviously relationships are important to everybody, regardless of gender. It's just really important. Everybody needs to thrive in that area of their life, and it's not easy, right? I think everybody is trying to figure that out. The world has a narrative, and sometimes it's confusing, right? It's not right or
Yeah.
wrong. It's just, we're just trying to understand a path forward, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of different influences on how people perceive what is the right path and what is the wrong path and all that kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's good to listen in to people that maybe have weathered the storm for a long, long, long time. So we got a couple
Mm-hmm.
coming on, Bill and SJ. Susan Joy is what that stands for. Um, they're clinicians, and they've been married for 44 years, so that says something. And they've traveled the world and done different things, and they've seen life, and they've gone through all kinds of seasons of their own, and I think there's something for us to learn. And we're going to have David, who's an executive coach, does a lot of amazing work across the border and here in Canada. He's going to be on the stage as well, and we're going to be doing like an interview scenario. I'll be the host, but we're going to have those three kind of have the interaction. And we like to talk about things in terms of the hero's journey. Like, I'm not sure if anybody ever looks that up on YouTube or whatever, but
Joseph Campbell.
yeah, every movie is based on that. Like the call, and then you hit adversity, and then you come back to wisdom.
Yep.
Um, right? So
Yep.
every guy in the room, and we want to go through their hero's journey on the stage, and then get to the room, right, and allow the guys to interact. Like I'm trying to move away possibly from like the one to many, like the one speaker up there talking to like more of a panel,
Yeah.
because it needs to be a discussion with the audience and the stage. So that's we did that last time. It seemed to go pretty well, and we're going to do it again. And for the relationship one, so if you're a guy and you're navigating some of those turbulent waters in relationships, plug in to August here. It's on Eventbrite. Just type in Guy Talks, or type actually the word relationships
Mm-hmm.
in the Kelowna area, and we'll pop up. And free tickets. Come check it out. It's going to be at Sandhill Winery right downtown. Heather's a phenomenal manager over there, opens her space, allows us to be there. Super excited about that. And yeah, it's businesses that are coming alongside us too, and just supporting the need to make our community stronger by just having really guys that are thriving. Is this going to make families a little better, our communities better? It's just good for everybody. And yeah, they get excited about supporting that, like Sandhill Winery.
Well, and that's what it's all about. Pierre, I can't tell you how much I appreciate meeting somebody who is completely different from me, or Joel, or Candy, or Randy, or all the members of the He Changed It team, but that has the exact same fire that we have for wanting to make the world a better place. So, and making stronger guys, the ripple effect of doing that, it's going to make better fathers, better husbands, better brothers, better employees, or employers for that matter. And it just, it's the trickle down effect is unbelievable. And it's in a place where, somebody said to Candace when she was starting, He Changed It. Someone was very, 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 very influential. And he said, listen, he goes, I see what you're doing here. He goes, the fruit is not low hanging, but the orchards are full. And really, I think the fruit is not low hanging because we as guys, we don't naturally gravitate towards this in this time and place in the culture. I think there were other times, centuries ago, and in different cultures, I think that there are times where it's just natural where the brotherhood is like one of the highest priorities of the culture. And for whatever reason, that is not the case in this time and place. And you recognizing how important it is, and not just recognizing it for yourself, but wanting to take initiative to scale something that makes it important again. You said the dream to you, a million, like you've got a huge scale here for it. I just got to say thank you very, very much for having that vision. It's inspiring to see. And I really look forward to how our pieces of iron can sharpen each other as we move forward in this, because we're both moving in the same direction. And it's not a matter of competition. That's not what it is. It's collaboration. We need to all link arms, all of us, you, me, organizations and groups and people and businesses that we haven't even thought of yet.
Well, I like to say what we're doing
Have
here.
to all link arms. What's that? You like to say what?
What we're doing here, Mike, is Guy Talks is not an organization. It's not. I mean,
Okay.
it is essentially it's a movement. It's a movement to get ourselves like men back online.
Yep.
And that's important. And it's not about anything outside of just creating healthy people. Like it's not even about men in a indirectly. It's just about our communities, our homes, right? Just if people are thriving in those areas of their life, it's going to make everybody better, right? And guys are guys or whatever, right? So we just want to get out there and just help them win. And we're all struggling. The economy, the world. There's lots of things that are going on here. It's very difficult waters where we're navigating, and just you know what? I've just decided to go down this lane, and of course, your vision, your passion, Mike. Obviously, like to your point, and when we opened up, is like we're two brothers that are going out there trying to make an impact, and then other guys are kind of like, I know Pierre and I know Mike. They got to know each other, right?
Yep.
And that's the cool thing about coming together and being synergistic and recognize, and the reason why I use the word movement is because it's not competing, right? When you're doing a movement, it's about moving towards something altogether, right?
Yes.
United front. We all have our lanes, and we just own those, and we come together for a simple purpose of making our world a better place. Yeah, you know what? It's okay if we just focus on the guy side, because if you try to focus on everything, it's difficult to accomplish. But if we focus in this one area, it just allows us to make a greater impact, as we can concentrate on specific needs that are of that in marketing terminology, that demographic. It's just a demographic. It's nothing more or less than just that. And that allows us to focus in. And the reality too is, when you look at all the statistics that are out there, not to bring in some of the negative or whatever, but
the need is real.
When you look at suicides, and the statistics are daunting against men. That's the way it is. Divorce rates, addiction, incarceration, all these things, guys, statistically speaking, are the numbers, the results are in the numbers. Like, it's there. So there is something about making an impact in this demographic. And I think that's just going to make our world, our community, our homes, our work environments just more positive and thrive more if we care enough, like you do, Mike, like I'm doing, and Joel and everybody, all the guys that are excited about what we're doing is for that reason. We're not trying to do anything except make a positive impact.
Very, very, very well said. We've done a good job at the origin story today. And now that that's out of the way, anytime that we're doing this on stage, or when you come back here and we're talking about stuff, we can say, hey, if you want to know the origin about all this stuff and how we all came together and stuff, go back and watch Pierre on his first appearance on heCast. We can kind of go from there. I love it. You said it so well. If people want to, like right now, I know there are some things, especially digitally, where you're kind of it's in the infancy, but if people want to jump on board to what it is that you're doing and take a look at it, even if they want to, like you said, look from afar and just watch the progress at first before they, dip their toe. What's the best way for people to follow the Guy Talks journey?
Yeah, you know, we have a website, but that's really like it's going to be
Great. What's
more
the
like,
website? No. Plug the website. What is it?
yeah, guytalks.ca. And
Guytalks.ca.
we're going to be tweaking that as well. But you know,
Yeah.
right now, like for example, we have this uh broadcast, this cast we're doing right now. Like this stuff is going to live on, you know, YouTube and Instagram. So we
Yep.
have a Guy Talks Kelowna Instagram. We have a Guy Talks group page that you can be a part of if you're a guy and you want to, like, you know, befriend me or whatever on Facebook, and then I can invite you to the group. And then we also, that's the group. And then we have a page on Facebook as well. So we got the Guy Talk page. You can follow that page, and then you can join the group. That's probably really good. And then the Instagram, I think that's where you're going to get a lot of like what's going on. I post all, you know, events there and all that kind of thing. So I think that's probably the best way. And we'll have clips of this and other things that will be on there. And I think that would be the best way to track of us and where we're going. And that's and then pretty soon too, there'll be other ways like an app and other things to plug into, get connected. So I look forward for all that new that those tools that allow that question to be properly answered.
It's going to be good, man. I'm excited for the 26th. I'm excited for the 27th of the next month. I'm excited
Yeah.
for all of it. And I'm very, very grateful that we crossed paths at the time that we did. Thank you, Pierre, for sharing so much of yourself. Thank you so much for thinking about this stuff and taking some of the things that you've learned along the way and taking those things and are using them to make the world a better place for the greater good. So thank you so much for that, man. And thank you so much for taking time to come on heCast today. Our first of hopefully lots of different collaborations. You're probably going to be on the show a lot when it comes to this stuff. This is going to be a lot of fun moving forward in this relationship. Thank you very, very much for coming on here today, man.
Oh, I appreciate being here, Mike, man. And what we're doing here too is just that idea of like supporting the guys through watching our conversation, right? Showing, emulating, like leading by example, like us, you coming out of your comfort zone and taking your skills and putting them here on air and being a good question and interviewer and talking and bringing that, like those gifts, your time, your talents, you're applying them to this platform to, you know, put your heart behind things and move things forward. And you know, we don't see him, but Joel's a beast. He's back there. He's an awesome brother. I've had great conversations with him. He's going to be doing some things to help this you know, come to life. And it's guys like you guys that are really powerful. And you know, it takes a community of men like this, right? So it's as well as the gratitude, I mean the praise or whatever, also my gratitude back, you know, for everybody on the team over there, Mike and Joel and the crew, just to, you know, have their time and talents put to use in a way that's going to make an impact in their community. It's about impact, right? So we're doing this together. This is not it takes a community to make a difference. It's not an individual, and that's important for us to understand. And if you're looking to lock arms with us as well too, just reach out to me personally if you want to get involved and not just be a participant, but you want to be a part of the movement and take on a role or whatever. You know, reach out. That'd be great. And we'll see what happens next. And then the 20 at Sandhill Winery, 6 to 9. Got your tickets on Eventbrite.
I don't think there's a city that you wouldn't want to have somebody on the ground that want to start Guy Talks, whatever city that there is. Get a million, we got to go all across North America. So anybody who wants to reach out to Pierre and talk about that, who's been struck by this and said, yeah, you know what? I need a small group in my life. I need a crew. I need, you know, and we can help facilitate, evolve, grow that, and allow that same hunger to be satisfied for a lot of guys. This has been fantastic. You know, for those out there who haven't downloaded the He Changed It app, what the heck are you waiting for? Go to hechangedit.com. You can see all the details about that. I love talking about the idea of good food for good thought. There's been a lot of both here today on this episode of heCast. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day. I know it's a little bit longer of an episode. Those are the ones I like to do anyway. I like the long form. I think we really get going at minute 45, and the powers that be say it's time to start wrapping it up then. I love that stuff. This has been another episode of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.